We have watched money lose its value many times. A slow erosion under the Romans, a gentle creep from Mansa Musa's gold, a century-long tide from the silver of Potosí. But now we come to something new and far more terrifying, a currency that does not slowly weaken, but collapses violently into near worthlessness in just a few short years. This is the story of revolutionary France and the assignats, the moment the modern world first met a monster called hyperinflation. We left off with Philip of Spain, who borrowed until he could borrow no more and defaulted. France, at the end of the 1700s, faced a similar crisis, but chose a different disastrous path, not to default, but to print. The setting is the French Revolution. In 1789, the old monarchy was collapsing, and the new revolutionary government inherited a catastrophe. The nation was buried under enormous debts, and the treasury was empty. They desperately needed money, but the country was in chaos, and traditional taxes and loans were not enough. They found what looked like a clever solution. During the revolution, the state had seized vast amounts of land, much of it from the church, so the government had an idea. They would issue a new paper currency backed by the value of that seized land. These notes were called assignats. In theory, each was a claim on a piece of real valuable French soil. It seemed sensible, even brilliant. Paper backed by land. At first it worked. The assignats circulated as money and helped the government pay its bills. But then came the temptation, the same one we saw with paper money in China centuries earlier. If printing some money solved your problems, why not print more and more and more? The government, still desperate for funds, kept issuing new assignats, far beyond the value of the land that was supposed to back them. And here we witness, in its first modern form, the mechanism of hyperinflation. It is a vicious, self-feeding spiral, and it works like this. The government prints money to pay its bills. All that new money floods the economy, and prices rise. But now the government's own costs have risen too, so it needs even more money, so it prints even more, which makes prices rise even faster, which means it must print even more still. Round and round, faster and faster, the printing feeds the inflation, and the inflation demands more printing. This is what makes hyperinflation so different from the slow inflations we have seen. It is not a gentle tide, it is an avalanche. Prices do not creep up by a few percent a year. They can double in months, then weeks, then days. Money loses value so fast that people rush to spend it the instant they receive it, because holding it even a day means losing wealth. The faster everyone spends, the faster prices climb, feeding the frenzy. For the ordinary people of France, the results were devastating. Imagine a worker who saved carefully for years. Their life savings in assignats could melt away into nothing, enough to buy a house one year and barely a loaf of bread the next. People on fixed incomes and anyone holding the currency were effectively robbed, not by a thief, but by the collapse of money itself. Faith in the paper evaporated. Some refused to accept assignats at all, demanding real goods, or gold and silver instead. The value of the assignat fell and fell, until it was virtually worthless, a scrap of paper. The great experiment had ended in ruin. Eventually the assignats were abandoned altogether, and France, traumatized, would remain deeply suspicious of paper money for a very long time. So let us be clear about the profound lesson. Paper money has no inherent value. Its worth rests entirely on trust and on scarcity. A government that promises to limit the printing and keeps that promise can maintain a stable currency, but one that breaks that discipline and prints without restraint to solve its problems is playing with fire. It can destroy the value of its money, and with it, the savings and stability of its entire population with astonishing speed. The assignat was the first great modern example of this catastrophe. It would tragically not be the last. In the centuries ahead, other desperate governments would reach for the same printing press and unleash even more monstrous hyperinflations of a scale that would almost defy belief. But money's cruelty is not confined to destroying savings. Its cold machinery can reach even further into the most basic human need of all, food, because sometimes the ruthless pursuit of money and profit does not just ruin people, it can starve them. In our next chapter, we will see how the logic of money and extraction turned a natural disaster into one of the deadliest famines in human history. And that is where we go next. If you are enjoying the journey, appreciate it if you subscribe, like, and share your thoughts.